Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a droll Charles Coulombe.
Droll?
Yeah. You're
Droll.
curious or unusual.
Amusing.
Yeah.
In a sort of brittle, Noel Coward, P.G. Wodehouse kind of way.
Yeah, kind of. I've been actually binge watching Jeeves and Wooster now that you speak of it. Yeah, exactly like that.
So you think I'm droll, like a character in a Wodehouse novel?
Absolutely. You're like Jeeves.
What, servile?
You've got these schemes. You're just a wealth of knowledge. A good wingman, so to speak.
One lives to serve.
Yeah.
One serves to live. Well, it's more of a compliment than not, I guess. It's funny, Rich Count Guido, whom you don't know, but your brother does, we were discussing a mutual friend of ours who at the time was very much alive and active, the late and much lamented Folly Clinton, a victim of the COVID-19 virus. But I said to Rich, you know, the great tragedy in Folly's life is that he was not born a character in an Yves Lenoir novel. You'd have to know Folly for that to make sense. But Rich's response was, well, that's perfectly true. And the great tragedy in your life is that you weren't born a character in a Wodehouse novel.
Gussie Fink Noddle. Barmy Phipps. I have all these names in my mind because I've just been watching them. Yeah, for sure.
I say.
Part of the definitely one of the drones clubs. Been engaged a million times.
Only 3. Let's get that clear, ladies and gentlemen. I've been engaged 3 times, no more than that. And it's certainly true that I was saved from each of those dreadful, dreadful possibilities, and have lived the glorious life of a happy bachelor ever since. And speaking of bachelors, I have to send a shout out to our 2 youngest subscribers.
Okay.
Yes, I will do it here and now. Shout out to Basil Terak and to Mirko Kolasa.
How old are these 2?
Well, let's see. Basil is 14. Marco, I don't know. I guess he's 13 or 14, maybe 12.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. They live in the wonderful metropolis of Trumau, Austria.
Excellent, excellent.
Now, you know what they say about Trumau?
What do they say?
Everyone has 2 homes. His own and Trumau. And there's a cat by the Adeg market every day. The Adeg is our one supermarket in Trumau. And you know what the students have named him?
What?
True Meow.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it, huh?
I like that one.
I thought you might. So tonight, the gang are all feasting on corned beef and cabbage for St. Joseph's Day. Pushed over from St. Patrick's, of course.
Yeah.
But while they're eating and drinking and celebrating St. Patrick's belatedly, I am virtually linked with the happy Tumblr House Tower family of loyal supporters.
There's no place you'd rather be, right?
That's true. There's no place I'd rather be.
Yeah.
Although, notice I am wearing the St. Patrick's Day tie, the tackiest tie I've got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's Friday. Does anyone else get a shout out? Perhaps St. Joseph?
St. Joseph? Just because it's his day? Yes, he does get a shout out. He gets a shout out, and so does St. Joseph of Arimathea.
You seem to be more excited about St. Joseph of Arimathea than St. Joseph.
Well, St. Joseph of Arimathea was older, and he was St. Joseph's uncle-in-law. No, but anyway, so we owe St. Joseph on March 19th. If you're Italian, you should have been going to a St. Joseph's table today.
Well,
Are we doing that?
I might get one. I don't know. I can't bilocate, Charles.
No, but when you're done with the show, I mean, for you, it's morning. You could leave the safety of the tower and go to St. Peter's if they're having one, or you could go to Holy Angels and hang out with the Italian Catholic Federation old people.
That's right. I could do these things.
You could.
Yeah.
And wouldn't hanging out with the ICF remind you of your grandmother?
Uh-huh.
Or her mother?
Definitely.
You see? You know, one of the things I love about the ICF, your Uncle Giovanni loved the ICF, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He used to call them those crazy kids.
That's right. So what else is going on, Charles? How's your Lent going?
How is my Lent going? It's coming toward an end. Mid-Lent was last week. We had Laetare Sunday, which I really love both Laetare and Gaudete Sundays because I like old rose vestments, not pink, old rose. I can never see them without remembering what happened with our friend Mike Dykes at Mass one time on Laetare Gaudete Sunday. The priest literally came flouncing out, and the first words out of his mouth were, "I've always looked pretty in pink." And I swear to you, we had to pull Mike back. He was going to launch himself at the guy. He was upset.
Yeah. Well.
And, somehow I don't think he was going to rush up and say, "Excuse me, Father, I believe you mean old rose."
Yeah. Well, that's Mike's pet peeve, so I'm told, so.
Oh, he has a number of them, but that is one of them. That is one of them. Keep him in your prayers, though. His brother sadly died last week.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yep. So keep William Dykes the fourth in your prayers. That's I've had Ben Emerson died, and Charles Coulombe died. You met him. You wouldn't have met Ben, but you met Charles Coulombe, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a difficult thing. That's why, I look at kids like young Basil and Marco. I look at you. I look in the mirror. I look at the old people I know. And all I can say is, time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future.
Thank you. Yes.
I just let you want to know that. Also, you know what else I can tell you?
What?
In the year 2525, if man is still alive, if woman can survive, they will find. In the year 3535. No?
You're such a boomer, Charles.
Are you going to actually say to me, "Okay, boomer"?
No. I would never
Come
say
on.
that.
You can say it. I don't mind.
Okay, boomer.
All right. Great. You feel better now that you got that out?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Memes of production time.
Nationalize the memes of production.
For the common good.
Hey.
All right. We've got a number of memes today. I'm proud to say. First one is from Ross from Twitter. Princes Then. The Doge in full set of armor. And he says, "I will set France ablaze." And Princes Now. You have this sad little pathetic doge saying, "Hello, Oprah."
Ooh.
I guess that's Prince
That's an
Harry.
attack. That's an attack on Prince Harry and Princess Moonshine.
They say she's gonna run for president.
I think she should. I think she should win. Finita la commedia.
I don't know. She seems to be struggling as a princess. I don't think.
No, maybe she'd be better as a president or a pope.
Okay.
Who knows?
Next meme is from Martin. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you saw this one. Let's see. Yeah, so this gentleman's holding a dog. The dog's St. Patrick, but down in the corner, this sad cat, St. Joseph of Arimathea. What a sad day. What a sad day. Poor St. Joseph of Arimathea, completely ignored.
He is, and he did a lot. He donated the Holy Sepulchre to our Lord. He founded Glastonbury. He set the Glastonbury thorn out. He did all this kind of good stuff.
There you go. I mean, completely ignored.
Yeah, but not, I will tell you, not in Glastonbury. The newly reestablished Benedictine community in Glastonbury offered the mass of Saint Joseph of Arimathea.
Okay. All right. Another meme. Oh yes, here we go. This is from Boom Boom. 2000,
Boom Boom. I love the name.
2,000 years of Irish cops. And these cops on parade, and big giant head of Officer Clancy.
It looks like Officer Clancy, and you know what's funny? It looks like Officer Clancy, and what's funny about it is that how do I put it? Well, you remember his pal Sergeant O'Leary.
Go ahead, tell me about Sergeant O'Leary.
Well, like a lot of cops after moonlight, they had to have second jobs because they're not paid enough. Now, that was not Officer Clancy's problem. He's well paid enough, apparently. So he didn't take a second job. But Sergeant O'Leary, he works as a bartender. He works at Mr. Cacciatore's down on Sullivan Street. Across from the medical center.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's doing another Billy Joel reference. He just can't help himself.
What?
From
What
the
are you
song
saying?
"Moving Out" by Billy Joel. What?
Sergeant O'Leary is walking the beat. At night, he becomes a bartender. He works at Mr. Cacciatore's down on Sullivan Street, across from the medical center.
Yeah, that's great. Great song.
You think Officer Clancy doesn't know him?
I'm sure the two know each other.
But you know how you can tell Sergeant O'Leary isn't a crook?
How?
Second job.
I think that's unfair.
Well, I don't know. Officer Clancy doesn't need a second job.
Just because of that doesn't mean that... I mean, how can you work two jobs as a policeman?
Oh, a lot of them do. Usually not as bartenders at Mr. Cacciatore's down on Sullivan Street across from the medical center. Usually they'll be, believe it or not, they'll be rent-a-cops, security.
All right. One more
Have
meme.
you
What?
ever been to Mr. Cacciatore's?
Yeah, he's a delightful old man. Good pizza. All right. Are you okay?
Booze.
Booze?
Yeah, his booze is good. He's got a great bartender. Irish, this bartender is.
Yeah.
Knows his whiskey.
Yeah. That's for sure. All right. So we've got a message for the final meme today.
A
Uh,
massage.
yeah, and so the message says, "I am currently lost in the People's Republic of China, starving in a terrible genocide. Thank you for releasing a campaign to feed me." Signed, Twiggy.
You know, God bless Twiggy. If ever she escapes and comes back to the States, and I'm in New York at the same time, I will treat her out. I will personally feed Twiggy. And you know what I'll feed her?
What?
Pizza.
Good.
Can you guess where?
Mr. Cacciatore's,
Where? And down on Sullivan Street.
across from the medical center.
That's the one. What?
All right.
You wouldn't. You don't have any reluctance going into a pizza joint like that, do you? What's the one Mama Petrillo's you used to go to?
No, I know. I'd always go to Mama Petrillo's and get a bottle of red, a bottle of white.
Any kind of mood you're in tonight.
You want to do this? I can do this, Charles. All right.
You know, it's funny you say that because I got a letter from an old friend. We used to be real close. He said he couldn't go out the American way. He quit his job, sold the house, got a ticket for the West Coast. Now he gives them a stand-up routine in L.A. But one thing I can tell you honestly, sitting here in Trumau, believe me when I tell you, Vinny, Vienna waits for you.
Okay. Okay.
What?
Wow.
You think Billy Joel can't have a space in Catholic commentary?
No, absolutely. I totally.
All right. Because, you know, he didn't start the fire.
Oh gosh. I wish my Billy Joel recollection was better. I would cite Allentown. That's the next one I would cite. That's one of my favorite songs.
Well, I can understand that because you know what? We'll all go down together.
All right.
But we were sharp.
Okay, well done, Charles. I'm outmatched.
All right, fine. Just remember that Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Time for the questions.
I'm attentive.
First question is from me.
Me? Is that a nickname or something?
No, me, as in your boss, as in the head honcho. All right. I'd like you to. It'd be good if you could talk about what is it? The Baba Yaga in Slavic folklore.
Baba Yaga. Well, that doesn't come from your Italian side, I'll tell you that.
That's for
Baba
sure.
Yaga was a witch.
Mm.
And she lived deep in the woods in a bit of a cabin. But the funny thing about this cabin was that it was mounted on a chicken's foot.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
A big single chicken's foot. And it could revolve. And she would take off in a churn. She didn't use a broomstick. She'd go off in a butter churn.
How do you fly?
But,
she'd fly in that way?
Yeah.
Wow.
She'd fly in it. But wait, there's more.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a young Russian girl whose mother died, but she gave her a doll. And she says, if you have any problems at all, you talk to this doll. And then she died. And her father remarried this woman who had 3 daughters. And everything was fine until the father went off on a trip, on a sales trip, from which he never came back. So the stepmother began treating the girl like utter garbage. It so happened that they lived not very far from Baba Yaga's place. Well, they ran out of food of some kind or other. I forget what it was. And the stepmother said, go get something, some of this from Baba Yaga, figuring that would be the end of her stepdaughter. But she took her doll with her. Now, I neglected to mention that the doll had given her advice time after time, which was always good advice. So she takes her to Baba Yaga's place, and Baba Yaga gives her several impossible things to do, but she does them with the help of the doll. And in the end, Baba Yaga gets so sick of her that she sends her back with all sorts of good stuff. The stepmother, seeing this, sends her daughters to Baba Yaga, but not having the doll to give them advice, each of them come to unpleasant ends. And something terrible happens to the stepmother as well. But that's Baba Yaga. She's not very nice.
It's pretty creepy, that involvement of the doll, if you think about it. I mean, does the doll actually talking and doing things? That's really creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy, but it's creepy versus creepy, if you know what I mean. In other words, she's got creepy on her side against a different creepy.
Yeah.
You should know Slavic folklore is very creepy.
Well, there's a lot of creepy. I mean, what's the I mean, Krampus is creepy. There's a lot of creepy
No,
things.
Krampus is not creepy. Krampus is warm and welcoming.
How is that?
Because he is.
All right, fine.
Also, the loup-garou of French and French-Canadian folklore, the werewolf, is not creepy. He's endearing. Sort of like a dancing bear that rips your throat out.
Wow. I never heard of that one.
What, dancing bears?
No, the French Canadian
The loup-garou?
yeah.
Well, all right, he's not like a dancing bear, but he will tear your throat out. You bet. I grew up with stories of the loup-garou.
All right. Question from Giovanni.
Okay. Not your uncle. He's been dead for years.
Yeah, definitely not my uncle. That would be creepy.
Speaking of creepy, yeah. Messages from beyond the grave. I told you not to let those Monarchists get away with nothing. You didn't listen. Now look, they're running the other side of the river.
I sincerely want to help, especially during Lent. I was considering, based on Charles's affiliation, send the Knights of Peter Claver some financial support. However, looking into their annual report and seeing who they fund, listed below, how can I? What is Charles's wisdom on this? Crestfallen Giovanni. And so he quotes their annual report that says, for what types of programs will these funds be used? Monies from this fund are restricted to support programs or awareness campaigns for the following areas: Black Lives Matter, dignity of Black lives, criminal justice reform, domestic violence, human trafficking, and racism. Okay.
Well, you do what you do, what I do, what you do with any organization that you're not entirely happy with what the central regime is doing. You put your money strictly on the local level.
Do Knights of St. Peter Claver sell insurance?
Yeah, but not a lot.
I see. But are they structured? I guess what I'm asking, are they structured like the Knights of Columbus in that way, where there is a centralized outfit that runs insurance?
Yes and no. There's a centralized outfit, but it doesn't have anything like the power of the organization that Supreme does in New Haven. Or to put this another way, the Knights of Peter Claver is, in a certain sense, uh, not as dictatorial as the Knights of Columbus.
Hmm.
I mean, there are elections for everything. It's not like the KFC where the Grand Knight, the Supreme Knight rather, is just chosen by the board, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah. The Carl Anderson's out.
I know.
Well, what's the new guy? Patrick Kelly? Is it that the new guy's name? I think Patrick
Is it?
Kelly.
I don't know
But anyhow, what do you think?
about Patrick Kelly. I don't know anything about him. I mean, I doubt highly that he's going to change from Carl Anderson's thing. If he does, I'll be much happier.
Hmm.
But I can't see it happening because I'm sure that Carl was operating with the knowledge and approval of the board.
Hmm. Okay. Let's see here. Next question. Howdy, gentlemen. Are there any notable private revelations among the Orthodox post-schism, acknowledging Charles's refusal to recognize a schism imposed by a sultan? If so, based on how heavily the Holy Father is emphasized in many Latin private revelations, for instance, quote, the Pope, the King of Christianity, end quote, by Our Lady of Good Success, is there a way you could conceive of that an Orthodox private revelation might be legitimate? Besides, if the message was to re-enter communion with Rome, perhaps an Ave Maria for the intention of reunification is due.
Well, of course, an Ave is always due for that, no doubt about it. Frankly, I don't know anything about Orthodox private revelations, except that their saints have them, I guess, some of them. I know also that when I was writing my Holy Grail book, I made the mistake when I was looking for Eucharistic miracles in the East. I made the mistake of going by stuff about Orthodoxy written by Anglo converts, which basically said that no, there are no Eucharistic miracles in Orthodoxy. That's Latin nonsense we don't need, along those lines. I wish that I had pushed further and spoken to ethnic Orthodox, because having done so after the book came out, I found out that the Hieroticon, which is one of their liturgical books, contains instructions for what to do when the bread turns to flesh and the wine to blood. And those instructions are very similar to what we do. So apparently there is a tradition of this sort of thing going on, but for whatever reason, they choose not to talk about it. So I can't really answer the question properly because I don't really know.
Right? A couple questions from Joseph.
All right.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for being kind enough to answer my last few questions. I'm a fairly new patron, and having the input of you and Charles on questions I have been having has been a true blessing. Non-patrons, sign up if you can. I have two
While
questions.
supplies last.
Void were prohibited. Sorry, no CODs.
Operators are standing by.
Act now. All right. Given the broken state of higher education in the United States, would it be worth pursuing a master's or doctorate? After completing a BA in history, I had been interested in pursuing the subject further, but have since tapped the brakes because most professors do not stand for the truth, and you would in effect be paying to be lied to. I also have thought of pursuing an MBA, seeing as I do have some potential opportunities in the business field, and my company would pay for a portion of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think a lot depends on a lot of things. There are a few institutions of higher learning that aren't completely gaga. Uh, you might look, I mean, education aside, you might look at where you might want to go. You know, if you studied abroad for your master's, your PhD, you get the chance to live abroad for a while, or perhaps in a part of the country that you might enjoy living in that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. If you live in Southern California, you might want to go to New England or vice versa. It's a chance to do so cheaply. And that in itself can be kind of an education. You know, if you're in a setup where you're stuck in a region of the country where you've been your entire life, um, you know, go for your master's in some other part of the country or some foreign land. If the curriculum is woke drivel, then do the bare minimum necessary to get your degree and enjoy this area that you're in that you've never been to before. Explore it, get to know it. That will be as much of an education in reality as whatever drivel they give you in the classroom. And do your research, because even if as a whole the thing is bad, there may be particular professors who are worth getting to know. Like which is impossible to conceive of, but had I been able to go to Harvard, for instance, I definitely would have gotten to know Adrian Vermeer. You know, he's one of the very few professors at Harvard I'd care to know, but he is there. So you've got to balance a lot of things against a lot of things, and one size does not fit all.
That's for sure. This reminds me of one of my favorite topics. Mark Stein was writing about this, how there is such an emphasis on certification in America, and he was personally against it. He himself having not even gone to college. He felt like
Yeah.
everything that's part of liberalism is everything needs to be certified. There's so many certificates, so many regulations, blah blah blah, and it's basically just inflated, and it's gonna collapse in on itself. That's his opinion. How do you feel about that?
I think, well, he may very well be right. I mean, Lord knows that it's pretty bad.
I
You
know
know,
for business personally, really they look at experience. It's not education. Education just gives you a foundation.
yeah.
But if you're going to be a manager, it's you don't get that in the classroom. You know.
No, you don't. But there is a superstition as regards degrees, and if you're going into a field that requires them, even if, how do I put it? You know, a lot of this is sort of kabuki. A degree won't give you any added skills or knowledge, really, but they require it.
A master's or a doctorate?
In some masters, certainly in certain areas, yeah. Like you take management skills, as you say, you can take all the classes you want, but you really need to do some managing.
Yeah.
I mean, my nephew was the manager of a Jack in the Box for 10 years. That's experience,
Yeah. Absolutely.
especially Jack in the Box in the Valley.
That's for
You
sure.
know, yeah. He had to talk gunmen down. You know what I mean?
That's terrible.
Well, it came with the job, so he learned. Anyway, so there you go.
Yeah, put that on your resume.
She did. Got him into seminary.
Oh man,
A master at Hispanic relations.
that's racist. All right.
That's just what happened. What do you want?
It's interesting. It's interesting that Spanish leeches over like that, but people don't adopt Asian languages as quickly.
Well, no, because they're kind of off our
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
But I can tell you that I remember going into a McDonald's in beautiful Arcadia, and no, it was Duarte, and there was a black lady in behind the counter. She's talking to the Mexican lady in front of me in Spanish. So I didn't think twice. When I went up, I just started speaking to her in Spanish. She was speaking to me. And it hit us both at the same time that Spanish was not our first language. So we looked at each other and just started laughing and continued in English.
That's amusing.
Yeah.
All right. Joseph's second question: what is either of your position on combat sports? I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu regularly and take the occasional boxing match, with which bother, which both figure prominently in mixed martial arts. My question would be whether or not Charles or yourself find viewing boxing or the UFC permissible. The UFC, statistically, being safer than boxing. The UFC has had 0 fatalities, though MMA more broadly has, and boxing has certainly had its share. I've heard priests vary. One SSPX priest told me viewing was acceptable, another said no. And I recall reading Monsignor Ronald Knox using a boxing analogy. Would also love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I'll tell you honestly, you know, I don't have any. I mean, I've known of parishes in the Northeast where the priests encouraged some of their young men to become boxers as a way out of poverty. I'm not a fan myself. In days gone by, it was the thing, you wanted to run home and watch the fights and that kind of thing, or going out on Friday night or Saturday night at the Olympic Auditorium to see boxing. I've never had an interest in it. I mean, seeing a couple of guys smack each other around, it just doesn't have any interest for me. And yet, I hear people call it the sweet sport, and all this kind of sweet science. And some people they rhapsodize about it. So there may be something to it. Just alien to me. That's all.
I mean, in that sense, it seems like you're speaking of a matter of taste. With Joseph asking, "Is it permissible?" To me, my first question is, what does that mean? To me, that's akin to asking, "Is it sinful? Is it dangerous? Is it an occasion of sin?"
Well, as I said, I don't see it as being that. I mean, it's a bit like bullfighting. Considering the authorities that have permitted it, I would be the last person to say that it was wrong. But it's not something I've got any interest in.
Yeah. Can't you analyze this from an objective, like, sort of spiritual realm, though? I mean, because it seems like
Well, the problem is I don't know enough about it to do so. As I say, he mentions Ronald Knox and all that. Am I going to say I'm a better Catholic than Ronald Knox, that I'm better informed than Ronald Knox? I don't think I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I mean, what you're asking me to do is to assume a role of authority in an area about which I know next to nothing. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Question from Patty. Charles, could you explain the theological development, juridical structure, and historical actuality of the Pentarchy? Studying church history, I have run into the concept, namely that the bishops of Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem, in descending order, have headship over the church under imperial law, but I have always been unsure about how it compares to our modern papal-centric model. I've heard it said that the Roman Church broke away from the other 4 sees But this always struck me as a simplification of convoluted events. Was the Pentarchy ever real, or is it just a romantic view of messy politics?
Well, it was real enough, but it's messier than is presented. Firstly, the important thing to remember is that the two oldest sees, uh, other than Rome, were Antioch, where Peter was first pope, then he moved to Rome, and then he sent St. Mark, his secretary, as it were, to Alexandria. So originally there was a triarchy. And both of those sees, or the other sees, were also founded by Peter. So all three were founded by St. Peter, either directly, as with Antioch and Rome, or at his order by Alexandria. All right. So then the idea came that Jerusalem ought to have some sort of preeminence. And of course, the first bishop of Jerusalem was James the Less, our Lord's cousin. So that's how Jerusalem got its standing, although it came in last. Finally, Constantinople, because it became the residence of the emperor, was allowed to be the second for purely political reasons. Well, after the Muslim invasion of the 600s, the patriarchs of Alexandria, Jerusalem, and Antioch became completely dependent on the patriarch of Constantinople. They were under Muslim rule, and they were just completely under the domination of Constantinople. So from that point on, they, although internally they continued to exist, and they still do, they were not independent agents apart from Constantinople. That's why the focus shifted. I mean, before the Muslim invasion, you had, for instance, the great splits in Syria and Egypt, which weakened Alexandria and Antioch severely. Then you had the Muslim invasion. So they were not, it's really, when you say Rome broke from the other four, well, three of those four were not in a position to do anything about anything. The one that was, Constantinople, contributed quite as much to the break as Rome did. So in that sense, it's rather more complex than you make out. Certainly for most of the church's history, the three lesser patriarchates have really been in the shadow for a lot of reasons. And of course, Orthodoxy spread north into the Balkans and into Russia. And now the vast majority of Orthodox live in Russia, which was completely outside the Pentarchy. They ended up with an independent patriarchate of their own, which is fine, but it's not of apostolic origin. And of course, most recently, you had Constantinople and Moscow excommunicate each other. And how long that's going to last, who knows? So it's all very, very discouraging. So that brings me back to the first point. Yes, an Ave Maria for ending the schism would be good.
Okay. Final question today. How does one effectively combat tyranny exercised for the good of its victims in politics, to borrow a phrase from C.S. Lewis, but especially in areas beyond the political sphere, such as in religion, particularly Catholic Christianity, psychology, and health? Ooh.
Well, I think refusing to participate is a helpful thing. I mean,
in what?
I'm sorry?
Like in what? Like participate in what? There's so many different things. I mean, the scope of this question is so huge.
Well, I mean to say, The thing is, because we're not in leadership positions, what we have to do is resist where we can as we can. So if you're a member of an organization that begins to push woke stuff at you, just say no thanks. I don't do that. I think it might be amusing for those of our audience who are students in college, if when the teacher starts talking about intersectionality or structures of power, what was that wonderful line you sent me?
Exploitative structures.
Exploitative structures, right? When you start getting this woke crap tossed at you, don't argue, don't complain, just get up and leave.
So you don't believe in exploitative structures, that they exist?
No, I think that you're in one whenever you hear someone talk about them.
That's good to know. Well, that's interesting. I mean, you've been
Whenever
critical of the Tumbler House Tower as exploiting various things.
Well, yeah, but the Tumbler House Tower doesn't pretend to be other than it is.
That's very true.
You know, it's not saying that it's a neutral organization giving you neutral education. You know, it's a, shall we say, a radically reformed business enterprise that now specializes in religious truth, as opposed to its former uh, uh, let's just say that
former endeavors.
What's that?
Endeavors.
Yeah. Or as your uncle used to say, going legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put a lot of emphasis on going legit.
Okay.
He said to me once, he said, you know, when I go to someplace like the Maskers Club or somewhere like that with your father and mother, I know they're always a little ashamed. I don't want it should be like that with my grandnephews and my grandnieces. I want they should be able to go into any club your family would go into and hold their noses up in the air. And I want you to see it happens. Never forget that.
Yeah. All right.
And I did my best, haven't I?
Yes, you did your best. All right.
You bet. There isn't a single place in the city that I can't go into that I can go into with some respect that any of your any of your family can't do the same.
Sure.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. Well done, Charles.
Thank you. I think that we forget how hard I worked on making the company respectable.
And you've been well compensated for it.
Well, I have to agree. I have to agree. But you know, as Giovanni told me, remember, we don't use submachine guns anymore. That's crude. Finesse, my boy, finesse.
I feel like that's wow. Sorry, Uncle Giovanni, but I feel like that's like the devil's, playbook right there. Finesse.
What? Finesse.
Yeah, soft repression, right? Or is that the term? Soft
repression.
Yeah.
It was never repression. It was about self-help.
Ah. Okay. But
see, I think you may have a somewhat skewed vision of the way things were then.
Okay.
See, back in those days, you got to understand that neighbors help neighbors.
Okay, Charles.
It was very much community oriented. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like now where you've got the state, the feds, the city looking over your shoulder. In those days, neighborhoods looked after their own. You know what I'm saying?
I know, Charles. This question doesn't involve 1930s New York.
Every question involves 1930s New York.
God.
All right, fine. So, getting back to the question.
So you said non-participation in these things, which
Yeah, to the degree that you can, and if you withdraw your money or you cancel a subscription or a membership or whatever, make sure you say why you did it.
But does that also play in politics?
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on what role you play. So, for instance, if uh, if you decide that you want to go third party and you re-register, then let your former party know why you're doing it. If you decide you can't vote for your party's nominee, send a note to your county committee telling them why it is you can't vote for him. In other words, don't just be a victim, spread the victimhood. I mean, now bear in mind that the other thing is that you've got to sort of arm your own head. I've been asked to do a book by another publishing house. Don't be shocked. A survival guide for the Glad Trad. I don't know how far this is going to go, but if I do in fact write the thing, I will go into this kind of thing in great detail. But basically, you're living in a world that's insane and wants you to go crazy too. That's very important that you look at it that way. So what do? Well, the first thing you do is you don't get crazy. And that means you practice your religion much more seriously, on the one hand. On the other hand, it also means you enjoy what there is to be enjoyed. Depending on your particular nature. Explore your neighborhood, learn to cook, learn to garden, do whatever appeals to you. And remember that the power that these people have is only partial. And it's passing. In 20 years, nobody will remember their names. They'll be gone. And if you're still alive, you won't be.
Wait, what? In 20 years?
Yeah. In 20 years, who's going to remember really what it was like living under Joe Biden?
We won't be alive in 20 years?
What's that?
I thought you said we won't be alive in 20 years.
I said if you're alive
you
in
won't
20
be.
years. No, if you're alive in 20 years, I said they'll be forgotten. And if you're still alive, if we're alive in 20 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. No, I mean, I might be alive. If I am, I'll be 80, which is quite possible. But I'll have a hard time remembering what Joe Biden looked like, even if I'm still, together and not senile.
I love that the phraseology that Lewis takes there. Tyranny exercised for the good of its victim, because that's really
what it is.
The guise of it, right? Wow, they're protecting, there's so much danger, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they can do all this stuff because they're protecting us, but...
And see, there's also, if you find yourself dealing directly with people with this sort of thing, there's always the fun strategy of obeying them to the letter and making it ridiculous.
That's fun.
Yeah, the good soldier Schweik was one of my dad's favorite characters. But you told me to do this and such.
Yeah, I actually do that for OCD people. or for people with weird rules, and then yeah, I make it difficult in that way to show them how absurd it is.
See? And that's what you can do for your masters. It's rather like a friend of mine who told me the story of a boss he had who just got very upset with him one day and he started yelling and screaming at him. He says, "You're worthless. You're scum. You're nothing." To which my friend said, "So what does that make you? The boss of nothing?"
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the questions, but we have a book of the week, a very special book.
Indeed, we do.
The Vulnerary of Christ.
Yes.
Who's this author? How do you pronounce that?
I pronounce it, bring it down a little bit more. There you go. Louis Charbonneau-Lassay. Charbonneau-Lassay,
Right.
who was a French writer, worked with the Iran, which is well, today all that's left is the Museum of Eucharist in Paris-le-Monial in France, the Shrine of the Sacred Heart, where St. Margaret Mary Alacoque had her visions of the Sacred Heart. And that's kind of fitting because the vulnerary, now that's not a word we use very often, but basically it's the wounds of Christ, or a description, like or a bestiary. The iere in English means a work describing. So a dictionary is a catalog of words. A bestiary is a catalog of beasts.
Yeah.
A vulnerary is a catalog of wounds.
Yeah, at the end, there's apparently a bestiary of Christ.
Yes, which in a much abridged version was published some few years ago. I have it.
What's that all about?
Basically, it looks at animal symbolism, particularly in reference to Catholicism and to Christ. How different animals have represented different aspects of our Lord or different saints or whatever you like.
Wow.
And he did the same thing with gems. Charbonneau-Lassay was a great lover of symbols and art, especially Christian symbols. And it's a tremendous book. I have it myself, hardcover version, because I donated $25 to Angelico's GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Also, when mine opens up, it's got a scotch bottle. Oh, no, it doesn't. I lied. But no, it's really quite lovely. So
we sell the paperback for I think $28. It's a
yes, but if they order only one,
all you need to do is order one. It inherently comes with free shipping and handling. Is that unbelievable, Charles?
That's unbelievable. But wait, that's not all.
Send in a book review on any book in the store, any book, and get $5 off your order.
And still free shipping and handling.
That's right. So little backstory to this. So this is published by Angelico Press. I've added actually like around 100 of their books to our bookstore. They have a very eclectic mix of books. It's really interesting stuff, and this is one of them. Now, so you actually participated in the crowdfunding of this book. You're so into this book.
I did.
So that should tell you. And the reason they had to crowdfund this is because it's so expensive. It was such an undertaking that let me show you. I mean, there's so many pictures. I think they say there's over like 600 illustrations in this. It's really quite a work. I just stocked up on this recently. I got these just a day or so ago, so I haven't gotten to delve into it, but it looks really awesome. I can't wait to delve into it. Hopefully this week.
I recommend it highly. And what's interesting too is that Angelico Press is in Brooklyn, not too far from the Monastery of the Precious Blood.
The Monastery of the Precious Blood. So
Home of
what's
the
the connection there?
Well, home of the Confraternity of the Precious Blood, which puts out all the Confraternity of the Precious Blood books, now handled by Tan, but the Confraternity is still with us. Anyway, it's a center of devotion of the precious blood of our Lord, which appears quite a bit in this book.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. I'm just gonna throw some. We kind of have a little bit of short episode, so I'm gonna do some impromptu questions.
Is this like improv?
Kind of. So one of the things people have written in about, they keep asking, what is that flag with the crown behind you? The
That?
Yeah.
That's a flag with a crown.
Yeah, but what nation does it represent?
Funny you should ask. It's the Kingdom of Croatia.
Kingdom of Croatia. So tell us about that. One of the commenters on YouTube said, "Isn't that's so similar to the flag that was endorsed by Nazis or something like that?" It was some weird. I guess the other one didn't have the crown, and then the nation that flag represented was pro-Nazi or something. So,
should I pull the trigger?
For those of you listening on the podcast, Charles is putting a gun to his head in hand form.
Well, look, Croatia was a kingdom going back, I think, to the 900s. Later on, the throne was inherited by the King of Hungary. So the King of Hungary was King of Croatia, but they were separate kingdoms. Eventually, the Kingdom of Hungary passed to the Habsburgs, who were emperors of Holy Roman emperors and then emperors of Austria and kings of Hungary. But by virtue of being kings of Hungary, they were kings of Croatia. A little convoluted, but you see.
Yeah.
The thing was that by the time that Austria-Hungary was created in 1867, the areas that are now Dalmatia and Slavonia were, well, not Slavonia, but Trieste, places like that. They were all part of Austria. So Croatian nationalists wanted to see Dalmatia and some other areas reunited with Croatia into a single kingdom that would be an equal partner with Austria and Hungary and not subordinate to Hungary. Well, this fit very much in with the plans of both Franz Ferdinand and the last emperor, Karl. But Karl, having been crowned King of Hungary, he couldn't do anything like that without the agreement of the Hungarian government because of his coronation oath. Closing days of the war, he finally got their permission to erect Croatia into an equal monarchy with Austria and Hungary. So for the last week or so of the existence of Austria-Hungary, Croatia was an independent kingdom with that flag. And today, Habsburg loyalists in Croatia look to see the restoration of the Habsburgs as kings of Croatia.
Okay. Let's see here. Got another random comment on YouTube. I just posted medieval versus modern republics. And one person with the moniker Thomist in a Teapot, he says, every monarchist just wants to be his own monarch. What do you say to that?
Every Republican wants to be caught on a political scandal of his own. I mean, stupid is as stupid does. I can dismiss things like in an asinine and inane manner myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need help, and I can do it with anything at all. people want democracy because they enjoy voting pointlessly. It makes them feel good about themselves. Or the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping something different will happen this time. The definition of voting. I can do this too. I would love to be able to come out with egregiously stupid comments like that.
Yep. The I can't look at social media anymore because whenever I do, I see certain things, comments like that, and that just make you want to pull your hair out. One of the ones that kind of more thought provoking, in a sense, was I remember when this Gina actress got pulled from Star Wars because of her conservatism, and this one person said, "Well, there are social consequences. There are social consequences to these things," as if like that was that's a reasonable self-governing, thing. That lingered so much because.
See, all right, you know what? If you say something stupid and somebody blows your brains out, well, there are social consequences.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, there should be social consequences for when someone says, there should be social consequences when someone says the arbitrary exceptionalism or fetishizing understanding of human bodies as segmented integrities is part of the apparatus that enables oppression. This is biopolitical.
Yeah, such a person should be, beaten to a pulp, and then have some moron say, "Well, there are social consequences."
I need to have a big giant control panel filled with buttons, but then there's one big red button, and then when I press this big red button, the floor opens up underneath this person into an alligator pit. That's what should.
It's a social consequence. I mean, what if irate fans of the chick Disney fired just set fire to Disney Studios? Social consequence,
Yeah.
It'd be a social consequence. And I again, it goes back to people who had no trouble with mobs burning stores and homes over this past summer, and then was sure that the world was ending with the supposed insurrection on January 6th in Washington.
It's interesting.
It's the weenies are triumphant.
That's right. Weenie Central. That takes me back. That was an old episode we did. Weenie Central.
It was Weenie Central. Well, I'll tell you, Weenie Central run the show. I mean, you might say the two towers, the Tumbler House Tower and Weenie Central.
Oh, man.
Most important leader, here's the latest in from the front. Oh, I don't know if I can stand it. Could you read it to me, please? Okay, most exalted leader, but it's going to hurt. I know, me too. Go ahead and read it. Bloody weenies.
All right, let's close it on up, Charles.
To the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Oh, we close it up. What? But I should tell you, though, since we're in the mood, I heard about a couple of classmates of mine.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, Brenda and Eddie were the popular steadies, the king and the queen of the prom. What? All right, fine. We'll take a step aside from that. Have you heard about Jack and Diane?
You beat me to that one.
Now, wouldn't you love to have gone out on a double date with Brenda and Eddie and Jack and Diane?
That is classic Americana right there. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah, I mean, you see the two couples, right, in a convertible, a Plymouth convertible
Yeah.
with big tail fins.
There it
You
is.
with me so far?
Yeah.
So they stop at the malt shop, right?
Yeah.
Either or both Jack and Brent and not Brenda, but Jack and Eddie have their Letterman's jackets on, right?
Yeah.
So they have they go to the malt shop. They play a couple of tunes of the jukebox. Then they go back in the car and they go to the drive-in and they watch something like the Cockroach that ate Cincinnati or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
And then they go to what's that?
No, go on. Go on.
Then they go to the Lakeside Elks Club for a dance. And you know, the band is playing and the kids are dancing and yeah.
That America is gone. It's nothing more than a fairy tale for me that you
What do
see
you mean?
remnants of.
But I just heard from Brenda and Eddie and Jack and Diane.
Yeah, they're probably like 80 years old now or something, or 60
Don't
or 70.
exaggerate.
Okay, 60
They're pushing
or 70.
70.
Yeah, they're pushing 70. Sorry.
I mean, they're actually older than I am. Because, you know, Brenda and Eddie, you remember they got married in the summer of 75. I was 15, so I was a little bit younger. Actually, the summer I was 14.
Okay.
But see, they're my brother's age, basically. He's 67.
Yeah. All right, Charles, we've lingered too much.
Lingered too, you mean like Brenda and Eddie and Jack and Diane?
Yes, exactly like that.
You think they've lingered too long in this strange world?
We're on...
If it makes you any happier, though, with Brenda and Eddie and Jack and Diane and all that generation, the leather jackets and the sock hops and the malt shops. But one day, together, they'll take the trip to the Grey Havens. And from there, they'll take ship to that 50s America across the seas.
Right now, I'm on that midnight train going anywhere.
The midnight train in Georgia or the midnight train to the Big Adios?
I'm just a city boy born and raised in South Detroit.
Yeah. You know who we really need right now?
Who?
Vanilla Ice.
Oh, please don't say that.
He would understand. I don't know what he'd understand, but...
All right.
Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, don't let the craziness get to you. Generate it yourself and dump it on the others.
There you go. All right, and remember, if it's Monday...
It's off the menu?
But what about the soul you save?
With any luck and wise planning and preparation, it could be your own.
See you next time.
Good night, gang. Bye-bye.